the Supreme Court has done Trump a favor. Now, it hasn't rolled through the entire thing that Trump wants on his executive order, but they made a partial way through. Now, there's a lot going on, especially coming towards the 2026 midterms, but this is, I would say it's a victory. Look, for conservatives, for Republicans, this is a time to, I don't want to say it's too early to do this, but hey, it's a good time to run that lap, take that victory lap. The amount of times, yes, with Trump, we've seen a lot more victories. But nowadays, we've kind of seen it being slowed down. He's been like attacked both left. He's been attacked a lot, especially from the Marxist right that think that they're right without really being right, or the grifters that they care that is out there. But this is a win. This 100% is a win. Now, yes, I would say yes. Be happy about the small victories. Yes, be happy, overjoyed, be glad, but don't stop working. We still have work to do. Midterms are coming. The midterms are coming up soon. We're in August, about to be September. Look, after September, there's only 2 months left. So we basically right now only have 3 months until the midterms come up. This is the time to do things. Less than 3 months, sorry. This is the time to get things moving. And Supreme Court has ruled in our favor. Now, this is from the NBC News. The Supreme Court hands preliminary win to Trump on mail-in ballots executive order. The Trump administration wants to exert greater control over mail-in ballots ahead of the 2026 midterms, despite the primary role states play in overseeing elections. Now, Washington. The Supreme Court handed an initial win to the Trump administration Monday in its efforts to implement an executive order aimed at limiting who can receive mail in ballots ahead of the 2026 midterm elections. At issue are provisions that seek to create a federal list of eligible voters and order the U.S. Postal Service to. sorry. Wait, what? Hold on. Sorry, I messed up. At issues are provisions that seek to create a federal list of eligible voters and order the U.S. Postal Service to deliver ballots only to those people. The justices, divided 6-3 along ideological lines, with conservatives in the majority, lifted an injunction at Massachusetts-based judge imposed in June that prevented key aspects of the executive order from going into effect this year in California and 22 other states that challenged it. The court also granted a similar amplification filed by Alabama and 11 other states. The White House praised the court's ruling, calling the executive order's provisions common sense measures. This administration will continue to lawfully enact the agenda President Trump was elected on, which includes the safety and security of our elections. White House spokesperson Lauren Bice, I'll go Bice. Lauren Bice said in a statement, please correct me if I'm wrong. Parts of the same executive order are blocked nationwide because of a ruling the same judge issued later in a different case, but a Supreme Court decision is likely to apply to that ruling too. That means the administration may, or at least in the short term, be able to implement the executive order, but the legal battle is far from over. Like I said, we're 3 months within the primary, within, no, sorry, not the primaries, they're basically almost done, within the midterms. What what other th- what other what other court order, what else do they have gonna try to fight on about with this ruling? We've now seen us winning. We've now seen that push for an actual honest and fair midterm. Now, we'll see what happens, but this decision is a painful setback, but it will not be the final word. New York Attorney General Letitia James, forget you, you stupid. Oh, who's among those who challenged the proposal, said in a statement. California Governor Gavin Newsom, a Democrat, said Monday night that his state will launch a new challenge to the Trump administration's policy on mail-in voting, which is kind of already too late, especially if they want to affect the midterms. We'll see what happens. I'll tell you this. No, I will tell you this. I heard this a while ago, a few months ago, before the primary started. I think it was maybe like early in the year. Tim Pool called it. Okay, I'm just gonna tell you that right now. Tim Pool called. He called it 100%. Just saying. Okay. Following today's SCOTUS ruling, California will sue again to block Trump's attack on mail-in voting. News said on X, every eligible voter gets a mail-in vote here and will fight to keep it that way. They say eligible voter, but in California, they even meant non-eligible people. President Donald Trump has frequently railed against the widespread use of mail in ballots as part of his broader complaints offered without evidence that the election system is plagued with fraud. And it's not really fraud because it's codified in law, but we all know it's stupid. It's we all know it's fraud, but it's codified in the state's laws. So it's technically not fraud, if you get my drift. But I don't it's unfair. I'll say that much. Okay? It's unfair. Now, his effort to encourage Congress to pass the Save America Act, Congress, get your butt moving on the Save America Act. That is the number one act that Americans want to see passed. Pass the dang thing. Get it done already. The legislation that would impose new voting restrictions nationwide, including proof of citizenship to register to vote and voter ID, have so far failed. The Supreme Court decision is provisional, focusing only on the argument that U.S. District Judge Indira, Tawani acted prematurely in preventing the provisions from being implemented in the 23 states before federal agencies had even drawn up plans for how to implement the executive order. The court's disposition of this application does not mean that any measure taken by the government to implement the order will necessarily be lawful. On that score, time will tell, the court said in an unsigned ruling. The decision leaves the door open to judges intervening later, especially with regard to any restrictions imposed for the coming midterm elections. On Friday, while the case is pending, the Postal Service issued its final regulation that would enforce parts of the executive order. Let it pass. The dissenters were the three liberal justices on the conservative majority court. Get them kicked out, please. We need to get them out. Jesus Christ. Today's decision does not address whether the president's attempts to interfere with states' administration of the November 2026 elections are lawful, nor does it suggest that the executive branch has any constitutional or statutory authority to implement the president's directives. Instead, today's decision merely postpones adjudication of those challenges, Justice Sonia Sotomayor wrote. In a separate dissident, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, there's not a lot of people. I look. I don't hate a lot of people, but man, do I hate this woman. Oh my gosh. Sheesh. Accused the majority of taking its eye off the ball by focusing on a technical legal argument instead of what she views as the larger goal of the Trump administration to secure our imprimatur for its efforts to foment chaos ahead of the new November elections. This is why she's. Oh, calm down, Jonathan. Calm down. The Trump administration told the Supreme Court the new regulations did not go as far as the executive order anticipated, saying the Postal Service will not refuse to transmit ballots, even if senders are not on a state list or registered voters. The Supreme Court decision is on the line with one in a related case by the U.S. Supreme Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit that rejected a separate attempt by Democrats to block the executive order. Lower courts declined to put the Massachusetts ruling on hold, leading the administration to turn to the Supreme Court. Solicitor General John D. Sawyer wrote in the filing that it was premature for courts to rule on the issue, as neither the Postal Service nor other agencies have determined how they will implement the executive order. It will be a tall order for the chronically underfunded Postal Service, just months to go before Election Day. That is why they're trying to get everything done right now. So don't stop them. Let them go. Let them do the ruling. Look, the new regulation that they are put in place, let them do it. Okay? Let them do it. But most importantly, what do you guys think about all of this? This is a lengthy video, yes. But What do you guys think about all this? Will this go through? Will the executive order be pushed to its completion so that way the midterms are safe and legal? And look, Tim Pool said this before. There are now the Trump administration was going to do something within 3 months of the midterm elections. We are now within that 3 month window. You won't be able to fire back on you won't be able to fire back on this at all. None whatsoever. Gavin Newsom just said that he will sue again, but that will not go through until after the midterms. So it's basically a done deal. On procedure alone, Republicans won the midterms on procedure alone. So we will see what actually happens. The future is yet to be told. I am not a predictor. I'm not going to try to predict everything that's going to happen. I'm just relaying what Tim Pool says. And honestly, if I'm a betting man, I'll bet on what he says. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. It'll definitely be a different one. But don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with everybody that you know. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.